Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
So Roberta HLADEK is the co-founder of Energetic Matrix Church of Consciousness. That's a very big name. And what it really means is that you are full of energy. You know, it's this is an energy organization in a sense. It's hard to bottle up energy, but when we talked to Stephen Lewis for so many years, we learned about how you could heal yourself. Now that doesn't seem easy, and it isn't, but it has to have some direction, and there's some excellent work being done now that Stephen has passed by Roberta, and she is all the time on her computer trying to figure out where the waves are of all sorts of disease. Is that fair?
That's pretty fair.
Is that a fair description?
It's a very good description. We try to balance energy, and we're trying to find great energies as well instead of just disease. We've been researching anti-aging frequencies and
well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's been one of my my deals that I used to tease Steve about all the time, and I used to say, can you find a frequency so I don't have gray hair and no wrinkles?
Really?
And he would laugh at me. But when we think of anti-aging, that's what we think of. We think of gray hair, we think of wrinkles, we think of different things like that, more superficial things. But when we talk about anti-aging and the research that we're doing, we're talking about the inner workings of our bodies, how the how the organs run and what age in which they're running in. And we're trying to create energies that will help our organs to stay healthy because we are living longer. So our option is to live the best we can as long as we can. So what's the use in living till you're, 95 or whatever if you're not healthy? So this is about keeping the organs running at a lower rate as far as age goes, our biological age. We want to keep them running instead of our chronological age.
Yes,
so that's what Stephen and I were always working on.
I see, and that's fair. And what I wanted to say, though, is do you still sell the book? Because, that's how I first I found Stephen, by featuring his book in our magazine.
Oh, yeah.
And
we sure do.
We don't really talk about that book very much.
Yes, we talk about that book, and with my other partner, Evan Slauson, he's the other author of the book. He and Stephen authored the book. And, yes, we have the book on our website. We're actually running specials on it. We have it in a paperback, and we also have it in a 6 CD set. So if you're traveling, you can put in the book on CD, and that's kind of fun to listen to.
Well, it's a very, very powerful book. I must say it. When I read that about the woman who really had no hope, she was supposed to die in 2 weeks. Somehow she found you, a friend brought her there, and she actually lived there with Stephen and maybe you, whomever she was there with. Did you remember her?
Well, she's actually a combination of a lot of patients that we had at that time.
I see.
And we named her Jane.
I see. And why don't you go through that a little bit? Why don't you go through the book a little bit? We haven't done this, Roberta, and I'd like people to buy that book.
The book is it's called Sanctuary, The Path to Consciousness, and it's a really fun book. It's an easy read. It's a quick read. It doesn't take long to read it. It's kind of one of those books that you want to keep on going. And it talks about Sanctuary was a place that Stephen always thought of that he would like to have, and he always thought it would be on a piece of property somewhere out in the middle of nowhere where he would have his computer and we could just do research. That was his dream. And he had traveled when he was younger through Mexico a lot, and I think a lot of it, he probably thought or had a vision of somewhere like that, someplace in Mexico, but maybe not in Mexico. And so when he and Evan got together, a lot of people, when we were in private practice, I guess I should go back to that, we were in Los Angeles, and we had a lot of entertainment people that used to come into the office, and they loved what Stephen was doing, and they always wanted to make a movie about him and about our work. And he was kind of gun-shy with that because he wasn't sure that he wanted to be on the big screen anywhere. But then when he met Evan several years later, Evan went through the process, and then he decided, with Steve, kind of brought up the subject, why don't you write a book? And Evan was an up-and-coming writer, so the two of them decided to get together and write this book. And so what they did is they took information that Stephen had and I had, and we talked about different clients. At the time they were patients, and we talked about them, and we put them together in a story and made it a story about this woman. And we had several people that would come in with things that they were dealing with that were very devastating kind of things. And sometimes we won and sometimes we didn't. But Jane was a woman that came into the office through the me character, which was Evan. He's the narrator. And he brings this woman who he knew, and she told him what was going on with her, and he took her to see Stephen at our sanctuary. And that's where the story begins, and how she has the preconceived idea that, the doctor has told her this. And a lot of times we only see one way, and we don't see that there are other options for us. And so it's really about seeing what the options are to you and kind of going deep into yourself and saying, look, I can heal myself, don't give up, kind of thing. And that's what we found in Jane. We talked to her, we explained things to her, and there were times when she balked at what Stephen was telling her, and they kind of go through this idea and work with the remedies that we give her, and she stays with the protocol and goes through the system with us, and then she meets up with her doctor and how it comes out in the end and what the doctor says. And it's also, too, because we had a lot of doctors that would come into the office, and they were really interested in what we were doing. And some aren't and some are. And it was really interesting to see that these doctors were so open-minded and saw that, there's other ways of healing rather than just maybe drugs. And now it's even different than it was when we wrote this book. Now in the hospitals, they let you bring in a chiropractor and, an acupuncturist and sometimes naturopaths and, all these different modalities, massage. They even can give you prescriptions for this stuff so that it's covered by a lot of insurances and things.
Amazing.
So things have changed, and doctors are seeing that there is another way of people getting over things that are bothering them. Not always, but a lot of times. And we have a lot of power within us that we hardly tap, and that's our self-healing power. And that's what our AIM program is all about, is bringing about that self-healing power with the tool that the AIM is.
Well, that was a great explanation, but it does take someone like you, and it looked like Stuart and Evan and Stephen, because people don't know how to do this themselves. But yet I have found a lot of people who've decided not to have chemotherapy or radiation. Then I've found some that have, and they are still living. And it must have been a lot of other things, because some people didn't live.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel that, with those kind of things, there's a lot of people that do survive it. And I think it's like anything else. It's our chemical makeup in our bodies. There's some things that we are okay with maybe it's foods that we can eat, and it doesn't bother you, but it might bother me. And I think it's the same with some of the drugs that are out there. There are some that do very well on chemotherapy and do very well with radiation and survive it. And then there's others that they don't survive it at all. So I just kind of think it's kind of a hit and miss kind of thing to me. Thank God I've not been involved in it myself, but my stepfather passed away from cancer, and he did chemo and radiation, and he tried, that stuff. It wasn't until it was at the very late stages that he was more into hearing about other things, and at that point it was starting to become too late.
And I never knew this, but Stephen dying as soon as he did, I mean, he was my age. Did he talk to you about he was going to die? Did he know that?
No. Sometimes you think, you look back on things that he said or things that he talked about or whatever. And I can remember him saying that AIM, there's going to be a huge thing that's going to happen with AIM.
Oh, I remember that this year. He did say that to me a lot.
I know, and I think, that's a huge thing? Because that was pretty big. And he would tell me that, it's going to blow up. Things are going to, we're going to hit something. We're on the cusp of it. And he and I were working on these researching things and different ways to test, because we're always trying to get to the bottom of the barrel. We're always trying to find those frequencies to help you self-heal. Because as he always said, if the frequency's not in there, then AIM can't send it out to you to help you to heal that. So that's our goal, is always trying to find new things and new frequencies to help us deal with these things. So I don't know. He never talked to me about dying. He was not afraid of it. I know that. He had a very interesting way of dealing with death. Like when his own mother passed away, and she was like in her early 90s, I believe, 90, something like that. And when she passed away, he had a very, I'm kind of more the emotional, sobbing, crying, takes me a long time to get over things. He was a little bit, he wasn't, I don't want people to think that he didn't have a heart. That's not where I'm going. He did. And he would sit down and think about it, and he would say goodbye to her, whatever he had to do. But then he was able to get back up, pick himself up, and keep going, where a lot of us, it took us longer to get over things.
Yeah, I'm sure I would picture that he would be like that. But he certainly was dedicated to what he was doing, and is very fortunate to have found you with, this isn't casual for someone to do this. Did you ever have experience with computers? I mean, what was your background before you started working with him?
Well, actually, I wanted to be a nurse, oddly enough, and I went to school to get into that, and then I was a little ways into it, and I thought, this isn't working for me, and I had to work and go to school, and it was a heavy load, so I decided to get out of that. And my whole family, everybody had worked for the telephone company at some point in time. My mother, my sister, my brothers, and one brother was still working for the phone company, and he said, why don't you come and get a job here? It's a good job, and it's stable, and you'll have your, insurance, and you'll be set for life kind of thing. So I went to the phone company, and I went into marketing with the phone company. And I would say that it was probably the best education I've ever gotten. And I stayed with them for almost 12 years when I got in a car accident. And that's when I met Stephen, and my whole world shifted.
Oh.
I decided
I didn't know that story.
Yeah, then I went back into the natural healing, because my family was of more of a natural type of using natural remedies and things like that. We weren't really in the medicine thing. So it was kind of odd for me then to go and want to be a nurse. But.
Right. So what would your big discovery be now, working in your field with the computer and looking for new energy I guess I would say not solutions, but areas on the computer that kind of ring out to you. Wow, we just found something.
Well, there's so many things, but my other half has a lot of trouble or had a lot of trouble with asthma. So that's been kind of a one for me, and I know so many people with the same challenge, and some are on the AIM program as well. So I've been kind of really working with that, and I've gotten him to the point now he's been working with us since the early 90s. So I've known him a very long time. And he is finally not using his inhaler, which he was using constantly.
Really?
So that's been a huge change for us. And I didn't really realize it because I'm not with him all day. And it was the last weekend he told me, he said, "Do you know how many times I've used my inhaler in the last month?" And I said, "Gosh, I don't know." And I didn't know if I wanted to know. And he said, "Maybe twice." And that's highly unusual because he was using it, 4 or 5 times a day.
Oh, my.
Using it. And so it's taken a while, but we've hit something. Something has triggered that now he's good with that. So that's been a big one. And cancer has always been a huge one for me, to try and find frequencies, positive affirmations, positive energy, whatever it will be, to help people to get past that, because it just seems like it's huge. And everybody, I've lost so many friends to that's kind of a big one. And then we're always working with autistic children and adults, and that's another huge one, because those people are so bright and they're so trapped, and to try and release that so that they're able to express themselves. A lot of them have a hard time speaking, and they have a lot of challenges. So those are probably the 3 things that I'm really working on hard, along with the anti-aging. That's always a given too.
Right. Well, I remember when Stephen told me that Wayne Dyer had some people who were autistic in his life, and he wanted to know, would you all just forfeit the money to be on the AIM program? And he said, absolutely. In fact, if you find anybody that has autism or child, I will do it for free. Is that still going?
Yes, we still have an autism program, and those are for children or adults that we find with the autism frequency, and then we will gift them their program. The only thing that we request is that we get quarterly reports from a caregiver themselves. Some of the kids write their own reports, parents, grandparents, whoever it is, but we need a quarterly report. And why we need that report is so that we can see how we're doing. Because in the report, a lot of times they'll express something that they're having a problem with, or we'll see something in the report that will trigger something in us to check them. And we found some amazing things. And a lot of people think that, well, you're checking an autistic, person, then that frequency isn't going to help me. Just total opposite. That frequency is having some kind of an effect on that person with autism, but it might have a different effect on you. And we had this one time when we found a frequency in this autistic child, and we had people calling, and we had facilitators contacting us about blood pressure. People's blood pressure was going crazy. It was fluctuating so. And this particular frequency did help with people's blood pressure all of a sudden. It did something, chemically, whatever. And we had a lot of people lowering their blood pressure medicine, which was amazing. That's another great thing.
Right. What does a frequency look like on a computer? Does it make noises?
Well, the computer makes noises.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Does the computer make noises?
It has kind of a graph. It kind of makes a sound that goes all the way up like a whistle maybe. And if it goes all the way to the top, it means it's a negative. If it goes halfway, it means it's positive. And the positive means that I need to look at that. For instance, if I was looking at what my positive emotion was, say, and I was looking at depression, it would go all the way to the top. If I looked at, happiness, it would be halfway, and then I go, okay, that's my positive emotion, just to kind of give you a graph to visualize it. And so that's what it looks like. And we do what we call a binary search when I'm testing people, which is testing a page, then half a page, then a quarter page, and kind of like that, so we can narrow it down to what we're seeing.
And then explain to everyone, please, when we first joined and people join, they send you a photograph and you put them in trays. What does that look like?
The trays, and I actually do a tray tour on our website, and you can watch it and you can see what the trays look like and actually see a sheet of the photographs. But when the photographs come in, we digitize them through our computer system, and they come out in 1x1 squares with a code underneath so that we know who you are. And they come out on sheets, and those sheets go on these metal trays. And we have 2 on the top and 2 underneath. And the tray is what vibrates with the AIM program frequencies. The frequencies are being sent from a computer to those trays. The trays are then vibrating with all those frequencies in there, and each one of us are vibrating, and the photograph holds our vibration. So when the photograph hits those metal trays, it then vibrates and matches up with frequencies that we need to clear. Because obviously we can't clear all the thousands and millions of frequencies in the computer at once. It would be, we just couldn't handle that. So whatever frequencies we need to clear, excuse me, we're clearing at that time and matching up to remove them. So those could be hereditary frequencies, things that have been passed down from our families. It could be an emotion that we're trying to balance. It could be a cough or cold or, whatever that we're trying to balance, whatever's in there that we're trying to balance. So it's not always diseases. People think, well, I don't need to go on AIM because I'm healthy. It's not just that. It's also about your consciousness level, because if we raise our level of consciousness, then we make better choices, and we can live that life that we're wanting to live out.
Huh. Very interesting. Who invented this?
Stephen.
Really? That's how he figured he could do this.
Well, he worked with some other modalities in his earlier years when he was first coming out he was a chiropractor and a homeopath and a naturopath and an acupuncturist and an herbologist. I mean, he had degrees in everything, trying to find the bottom of the barrel, I guess, in healing. He always wanted to find the one thing that would help people live their best life. That was always his goal. His goal was not that you had to keep coming back to him. And I know that's not probably a great business module, but he wanted people to be able to come to him. He could help them heal whatever was wrong with them, and they could go about and live their life healthy. So he had different modalities that he used, and he researched all kinds of other machines and the Vol machine and all these other scientists that came before him, and he researched all of them and studied them and kind of took some of their information to make the machine that we have.
Wow. I wonder where did he get his inspiration from? I mean, was it his family members, or how do you think he had this internal desire?
Yeah, it was probably because he lost his family. They didn't live very long, and he lost his father when his father was quite young, and so I think that probably spurred him on a little bit, was losing his father, and also seeing he had his uncle wasn't too much older than him, his mother's brother, and he was married years and years ago, and his wife and Steve were very close. He really connected with his wife, and she was very ill. And I think that really spurred him on, because he saw how they were not finding what it was to help heal them, and he thought if he could have had the answers, then maybe they would still be alive.
That's usually everyone has some inspiration. Mm-hmm. And that was very inspirational. And he was very dedicated. He said he used to work long hours. Did he? I mean, he'd work sometime in the middle of the night?
Oh, when Steve and I used to live together. We lived together for 11 or 12 years. And there were times when he would wake up in the middle of the night with some kind of an idea about something. And, he would wake me up and say, come on, we got to go check this. I was like, okay, Or it would be, his beeper would go off, and it would be one of his patients, and they were having a difficult time. And he would, either meet him at the office, or he would, when we got to the point where we were using photographs, he would check them from home.
Yeah,
he was very, very dedicated.
Very
he was the kind of guy that was, when I first met him, he would let people pay with cookies and, shirts and all kinds of things.
Oh.
And I used to tell him that, this isn't going to pay the bills. You got to pay for your office. I was more the steady one trying to keep the ball rolling, and he was out there. He goes, well, you handle all that stuff. Just let me do what I do. And he was like that. I mean, if someone couldn't pay, he would never turn them away.
Wow,
never.
Amazing. Well, I guess we've run out of time. I want everyone to be able to get on the AIM program, so they can go on the web to the aimprogram.com, aimprogram.com. How's that? Is that going to work, Roberta?
That works perfectly.
aimprogram.com. And boy, thank you. Every time we talk, I learn so much more.
Oh, well, thank you. I sure appreciate being on your show.
It's always a pleasure, Roberta. Thank you very
pleasure.
much. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.